Tensions are escalating in the Middle East as Naim Qassem succeeds Nasrallah and Hezbollah. In Gaza, Israeli shelling claims over 90 Palestinian lives. Condemnation of Israeli UNRWA ban rises from Egypt and the United Nations amid Iranian calls for diplomacy. Humanitarian crisis deepens further. As the United States elections approaches, both campaigns intensify efforts to secure Latino and Arab Muslim votes, unveiling strategies aimed at galvanizing support in the critical final days. Welcome to In Focus. Let us delve into the escalating dynamics of the Middle East, focusing on the recent developments in Gaza and Lebanon, including Hezbollah's leadership changes, ongoing violence, and international responses. Join us as we analyze these critical issues. Stay tuned for more analysis. The New York Times has reported that an Israeli airstrike on a residential building in Beit Lahia, northern Gaza, resulted in significant casualties, with reports indicating that at least 93 fatalities, including 25 children, according to Gaza's health ministry and the Palestinian civil defense. This attack is part of the Israeli's intensified military campaign against Hamas in the region, which has seen a sharp increase in civilian deaths. The Israeli military has stated that it is investigating the incident, but has not provided further details. In related developments, Hezbollah has appointed Naim Qassem as its new Secretary General following the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah. This leadership change took place amid heightened conflict, with numerous Hezbollah leaders targeted by Israeli strikes. And providing more analysis regarding the current updates about the latest escalations in the Middle East, joining us is Ahmed Safadi, a writer and political researcher from Jerusalem. A very warm welcome, sir. Welcome to the program and the show. Sir, with Naim Qassem recently elected as the successor to Hassan Nasrallah, what implications do you foresee for Hezbollah's strategy and regional influence?
It's clear that Hezbollah is sending a strategic message and clear messages to Israel in terms of domination and control, because the occupation thought that after the assassination of Hassan Nasrallah, that the party lost control, but the field battles does not confirm this. So according to my belief, Mr. Naim Qassem also represents a challenge to Israel, because Gallant from the very first moment said that he is the temporary leader of Hezbollah, which means that he will be assassinated as well. In this framework, the matters will be directly escalated. They will never be de-escalated, talking about Hoxton and the American efforts to stop the war against Lebanon, and even the Israeli talks that the ground offensives will be over in a few weeks. All of these things contradicting what Gallant says regarding the direct threats against Hezbollah, which indicates that there will be an escalation either in Gaza or in Lebanon.
Sir, of course, Naim Qassem, historically seen as a figurehead deputy to Nasrallah without significant military background, now is at the helm of Hezbollah after the assassination of almost the entire senior leadership. Is Qassem, the former chemistry teacher and imam, running Hezbollah for real, or is he just a figurehead secretary general who hides the real leaders behind him?
Indeed, he's a real leader, and Israel thinks that he is a real leader. It's not about who comes after Mr. Hassan Nasrallah. Of course, Hezbollah has leaders, no matter how much they assassinate, and this is clear in the military leadership. There are control, restoration, and recovery from a military perspective, but from a political perspective, this also comes in the history of the Palestinian Revolution, where the leaders were assassinated one after another as well. But the leaders are always generated, or what we call in Palestine, there is a shadow leadership, which means that there are young leaders who come after the real leaders. Before electing Mr. Naim Qassem, there were clear statements that he will continue the path of Mr. Hassan Nasrallah. It's not about the people, because Israel thought that the assassination of Yahya Sinwar, Hassan Nasrallah, or Mohsen, all of these things do not eliminate them, because it's an organization with organizational structure. It's not just a militia. That's why Israel made a wrong calculation. If they assassinate him, they again miscalculate things, because this will have stronger reflections.
Okay, sir, I want to ask you a question here, and your motto and your what you think. Do you think that Iran played a role in the decision to choose a successor to Nasrallah to lead Hezbollah?
I don't think that Iran will interfere who is going to be elected to lead Hezbollah, but in my opinion, Iran helped in restoring the military abilities of Hezbollah and its abilities in general. And there were Iranian leaders helping Hezbollah. Indeed, Hezbollah restored control again. That was clear in the fighting in 5 phases. Fighting in zero space and the targeting of the Israeli tanks invading inside, hitting the close settlements in which the army exists in, and hitting medium goals and striking in the depth. So Hezbollah strikes in 5 ways. It uses drones and missiles and long-term missiles and new weapons, which reflects the help of Iran in restoring the recovery of Hezbollah in a very short time after the major explosions and the assassination of the leaders. When Hezbollah fights and makes great loss to the Israeli army in terms of the killed and injured people in a very short time, while defending the land, I think Iran provided major help. But I don't think they will interfere in who's the leader.
Okay, sir, the Lebanese Ministry of Energy has estimated losses of $480 billion in the energy sector due to Israeli attacks. What do you believe are the long-term consequences for Lebanon's infrastructure and economy?
There is an economic weakness in Lebanon with high level of poverty and political disagreements and disputes. The economy is in a difficult condition. The war deepened the economic crisis not only in Lebanon but also in Israel as well. In Israel, there are losses of $70 billion, and without any American support, the shekel would fall in front of the dollar. And in Palestine, we lost many. And in Lebanon, we lost many buildings. It's a deliberate action by Israel, as well as in Gaza, in order to increase the loss at the humanitarian level and the building level and the infrastructure levels. This is what the occupation done. It's similar to what happens in Gaza Strip to make great losses. In my opinion, Lebanon, with the conference and their movements,
Okay, I think we have a technical problem, and we move on with the, of course, sir, are you with us, or are you Mr. Ahmed Safadi, are you with us?
yes.
Okay, very warm welcome again, sir. Back again to Naim Qassem, which was the highlight, of course, of today among the shelling that took place in Gaza, which was unprecedented, unfortunately. Naim, sir, why did Hezbollah wait this long to declare a new leader to the movement, and did this assassination of Hashim Safieddin play a factor?
the party cannot stay without a leader, isn't it right? So they assassinated Hashim Safieddin. He was the first elected person to be successor to Hassan Nasrallah, and by this way the party sends a message that no matter how you assassinate people, they will be leaders and they will not hide their heads. It's a political, security and military challenges. It sends a message that Hezbollah is controlled by a good leader, which increases the spirit or elevates the spirit of the fighters on the ground. It's a message they send that they will continue fighting. They're not afraid of the assassination, according to my belief. This is the message sent by his election when they assassinated the Secretary General of the People Front in Ramallah. They elected another person. So they sent a message that they will continue, a message of a challenge that Hezbollah will never surrender or any other section because there is a war against Gaza. They want to create a new de facto in Philadelphia axis and the Rafah cross point. They want to create buffer zones in Gaza or isolated
Sir, because I want to wrap up this segment as soon as possible. The death toll in Gaza has of course, tragically risen to over 43,000. In your view, how can the international community effectively respond to this escalating humanitarian crisis? Of course, in response to the United Nations Security Council meeting that we just watched.
I have watched UN Security Council yesterday. That meeting aimed at
and the UN today, sir.
Which is an immediate ceasefire and practicing pressure on Israel to allow the medication and food because the trucks are accumulated in the Egyptian side and they prevent the Egyptian side from entering or delivering the aids. There are international pressure in order to allow the medication and sending the injured people to other Arab countries, in addition to the medical staff that is held detained in Kamal Adwan hospital. So they practice pressure to allow the humanitarian aid. This meeting was very important, but there should be more pressure on America and Israel in order to stop these massacres and this genocide that we haven't witnessed similar to them since 1948.
Mr. Ahmed Safadi, political researcher from Jerusalem, thank you for your insights, and I couldn't thank you better, sir, for your insight and for your informative knowledge. And now, dear viewers, we move on to the U.S. presidential election campaign has reached its final week, with polls showing very close results between the two candidates, as each intensifies their appeals to undecided voters. More than 41 million Americans have cast their early votes in an election, which is expected to be the closest in modern times. Vice President Kamala Harris will deliver a closing address tonight, while Trump will deliver remarks in Florida before heading to the battleground state of Pennsylvania.
What I call an opportunity economy.
We will make America great.
We're ready to fight for it. As one people, we are moving forward.
We will make America safe again.
According to the Washington Post, Democrats have been focusing on the racist remarks made against Puerto Rico at a recent Trump rally, and they're trying to use the remarks against Trump in an effort to win over Latino voters. The paper noted that amid a heated battle over Latino voters, Harris's campaign launched a new ad attacking Trump's record on Puerto Rico and held the news conference in Philadelphia, where Puerto Rican leaders expressed outrage at remarks from broadcast host comedian Tony Hinchcliffe, who described Puerto Rico as an island of garbage. Meanwhile, Trump and his allies scrambled to try to contain the backlash from the Sunday's rally and divert attention to other topics. For more analysis of the latest developments in this extremely tight race, we have from New York Ms. Shirina Naggar, a member of the Democratic Party, and Eric Bro, a Republican Party strategist. A very good day and a warm welcome to both our guests. Mr. Brown.
Yes.
There is a wave of anger among Latinos after racist remarks at a Trump rally that described Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage. How is Trump and his campaign dealing with this backlash?
Well, first of all, I think that this is a fabrication and really a non-issue. If you understand what was said, it was said by a comedian. It was perhaps a remark that was in poor taste. But to try to tag it...
Sorry, do you see this appropriate to be said?
Excuse me?
Are you okay with what was said? Do you see it appropriate?
No, but I'm also not okay with calling it racist. I think that this country is being divided and pulled apart primarily by the left.
Okay, but you're not okay, sir.
Excuse me?
You're not okay.
No, I'm not okay with any remark that is negative towards any country or any group of people. But this person was a comedian.
Whether a comedian, sir, or whether a comedian or a politician, we have to consider every word we say. What do you think?
I agree, and I think that applies to you as well. When you label something as racist, that is a very strong term to use.
This does not apply to me. It applies to the Harris campaign.
What I believe that Donald Trump is going to lead America to a better future. That's what the voters are going to decide on November 5th.
Okay, we move on to Mr. Naggar. Mr. Naggar, a very good day. How is Harris planning to make use of the Latino anger from these recent remarks about Puerto Rico?
Thank you for inviting me to the talk, but we're used to that from Donald Trump. I mean, this is not something new. He distanced himself from the remarks, but if you Google the comedian that was invited, it's well known that he has racist comments and racist jokes. This is not a stand-up comedy session. It was a rally for a Democrat candidate for the United States president. So it should have been, aware of that. Will spend a lot.
Ms. Shireen, Mr. Brown is against the statement or the word racist in this context. What do you think?
Well, it is, very racist. And again, it's not, we're used to that. I remember when COVID started, Donald Trump, he described it as the Chinese virus, and we had a lot of hate wave against the American Chinese citizens. This is something, he calls Harris with like a crazy woman. He did not even, he reflected on her race and say, I don't know if she's black or not. This is very decisive and is not supportive to the community. That does not strengthen the value of the families and neighbors and the community in the United States. It's just describing the liberal or the Democrat as enemy of the state, and he should use the military to get rid of them, enemy within. This is going to be very dangerous to the United States that is well known of tolerance that we're proud of here in the U.S.
Okay, we move again to Mr. Brown. Mr. Brown, how do you view Trump's current overall popularity among Latinos and African Americans in this campaign, sir?
It's an excellent question. And Trump is doing better than ever among those groups. And I think it's important to understand that context matters. Certainly we need to be careful about our language. And and we need to be respectful. But if we're really going to play this game where we're going to compare tit for tat what one side has said or the other, Kamala Harris and her campaign and her surrogates are daily going out calling President Trump Hitler, a dictator, a threat to democracy, to the extent that it has even cost him and other innocent people their lives because of the anger that it has fomented. If anyone's playing games with language that are racist or divisive, it's the people that are leveling charges of the great racists themselves, like Adolf Hitler. What we see here is an example of what you'd call in psychology pure projection. It is projection from the left onto Donald Trump with that little add-in of taking his phrases and words out of context.
Ms. Nagor, can you comment on Mr. Brown now when he said that Harris sometimes claims or says in her campaigns that Trump is racist, or their statements such as racism in the midst of the campaigns?
He doesn't have to say that. We can feel it and we can see it for every comment he made. The last couple of days ago or last week, he described he couldn't see anybody in the audience because the light in his eyes, and he only can see the black people, but not the white people. So, even Donald Trump is...
Why black and white is the narrative, Ms. Nagor?
Go ahead. Hello?
Why is the narrative black and white? Why?
When he described that the light was in his eyes and he can't see in the audience anybody but the black people. So that's very offensive. I want to bring to your attention something else he mentioned also during his campaign, that one of the most important thing in the Constitution is the freedom of press. He just went out and called for some network to be off air, or some of the programs that, because they just speak their mind and they just freely express their opinion. So all this here is against the Constitution of the United States. Everything that is impact, or infringe on the freedom of speech, freedom of press, that will impact anyone. The United States, you can criticize the president, you can criticize the political official without retaliation.
Okay, Ms. Nagor, sorry to interrupt you, but I want to ask you a very important question. Harris receives more support from black and Latino men than Trump, but this percentage is not as high as previous Democratic candidates. What are the reasons behind this, and can this situation be improved in the remaining dates? The countdown has already started.
I think it's just because she's a female and the United States is not, they claim it's not ready for a female president, which I disagree with. And we don't know the accuracy of this information. We felt like some of it is just propaganda that against her gender. So I would be, surprised if actually some of the male, African-American males or
Mr. Brown, why is Trump gaining ground with Arab American voters at this point? And what are the strategies behind this advance, and how important the Muslim votes is in this tight race at this point?
Well, he's gaining ground among all segments, but in particular the one that you identified is because they're Americans just as much as anyone else is, regardless of what type of label someone wants to place upon them. And those voters remember what life was like under Donald Trump for 4 years, when the economy was strong, when interest rates were low, when unemployment was low, when the cost of goods were better. It's fascinating that we have to default to gender and race and all of this categorization. When is the left going to take responsibility for its failed policies, as opposed to simply saying that as their support diminishes, it must be for some immutable characteristic associated with the candidate? I think that this definitely shows the weakness of their position. To your question, yes, to your question of the Muslim Americans, I think this is a very important voting bloc that has been for a long time probably ignored among Republican candidates. And I think Donald Trump is doing much more to reach out to them and to show them that he's going to be president for everyone.
Hopefully, sir, we see the best for the United States. Thank you for your insightful views. That was Ms. Shirina Nagar, a member of the Democratic Party, and Eric Brown, a Republican Party strategist. Thank you very much for joining us here on In Focus. That wraps up our episode today. Remember to stay updated by following Q News on YouTube, Facebook, X, Instagram, and TikTok at Qnews EG for the latest developments.